Hey there guys, Conceptual Concept 6.9 here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and today I thought it would be a good idea to finish off my AK beginning series. So it's probably not going to be named that because for whatever reason the algorithm didn't like that very much. So the title will be different, but this is the third and final part to my AK beginning series, and it's going to be going over full modernization. So this is really about getting your AK to a modern fighting rifle. I know a lot of guys say don't AR your AK, but that's always kind of been something that didn't make sense to me because the AR-15 started as the M16A1, and guess what? We modernized it. So I don't really understand that. There's something to be said for optimizing your rifle, and I don't feel that AK should be really discluded from that just because they're a little late to the game to full optimization. So let's start off with the chassis system. So various different ways you can go about this. This is a Zenico Sport 1 kit with a B33 dust cover. This has been my standby for well over a year. It's held up very, very well. Now, I know there are sanctions against Zenico right now in the US, but Belwaris, which is a Turkish company, is arguably making a better version of this for your AKs, and it doesn't just run basis rail, it also runs M-LOK. I really like the basis rail. Unfortunately though, it is not very available here in the States. Basis rail is definitely a little more user-friendly than M-LOK to me. I think part of that is because Russians drink a lot of vodka and they want you to be able to service this drunk. As you can see, I'm able to equip really whatever I want. I've got my ACOG with the red dot on here. I've gone over this already, but I really think this is one of the best AK optics available. It's a TA50 and a EPS. It is not a standalone optic. The TA50 I feel really has a lot of shortcomings alone, but the red dot really mitigates a lot of that. But I've got that. I could do a red dot magnifier. I could do an LPVO if I wanted to really weigh this bitch down. Past that, I do have a hand stop here. Not a real big fan of vert grips because I generally do a thumb over bore grip, so I'm not going to hold it like this, but this still affords me something to be able to pull off the rifle once it gets too hot. Now you'll notice I have a close to full length handguard on here, the Sport 1 kit. I really like extended handguards, and there's a reason we're using them in the in our modern rifles. It affords you something to rest off of barricades, support yourself without causing a lot, if any, barrel deflection. Now, the Sport 1 kit does attach to the handguard, so you will get just a smidgen of barrel deflection if you're resting and really cranking down on the handguard. That being said, it is much less than resting on the barrel, so huge benefit there to having an extended handguard. Past that, we do have night vision equipment. I like having extended handguards on my night vision rifles just because you get less splash off of your rifle when you're shooting using your night vision stuff, and it gives away a little less of your position. So ideally you do want it a little further forward. There's some arguments to be made in terms of weight and balance to pull it a little further back, but I like my night vision equipment to splash off my rifle as little as possible. So if you haven't watched my passive night vision shooting video, I'm going to go ahead and annotate that right up here. But you'll know if you watch it, I am a huge advocate for passive night vision aiming. I'm not a huge fan of the laser-based using your laser and illuminator to aim, just because it gives away your position pretty easily. And so my personal preference would be something like this. This guy is set up for passive night vision shooting. My only aiming solution is my red dot, and reason why is I'm not going to use a laser. Now, I am going to tell you I do have a Surefire Vampire here. Main reason is there are dark spots that you might want to be able to see under nods, and an illuminator is important. Now, that being said, it's just like using a flashlight. You want to maintain light discipline, and you don't want to use it just excessively, just when you can't see into an area and you really expect an enemy to be there, and when you can afford to give again, give away your position, go a little more loud. So I like this setup a lot. It's light, it's slick, it's handy. Again, you'll see I have a full-length handguard on here, RS Regulate. So let's go over a few options for having a full-length handguard and a full-length rail, or some rail to be able to attach different optics. So as you can see here, I have a RS Regulate handguard, an Ultimac M2B, and a Texas Weapon Systems dogleg rail. This is a Gen 3. I've had the Gen 2 before, and I'll tell you, it didn't hold zero very well. This Gen 3 so far has been holding up really well. I don't have a ton of rounds through it. However, I have pulled it off and reinstalled it several times and gone back to check zero. Zero's been golden. So I'm starting to like this. I'm starting to be like, maybe I'll start recommending it, but we'll go over that in a later video. So that's one optional setup. Again, I have full-length handguard, I have rails to accommodate modern accessories, all that good stuff. So next up would be something like the TDI X47. If you're really balling on a budget, that is not a bad route to go. It is rock solid. I have one. The only downside is it's really thick with 3 Cs. So gotta weigh out that weight versus balance, all that good stuff. But it's only $300. It affords you an optic rail, a handguard that can mount modern accessories. Now it's not full length, but again, $300. You do a Wasser 10 for 7, a TDI X47 for 3. You've got a fairly modern fighting rifle for $1,000. So can't argue with that. Next up would be the Surefire Mark III chassis. I don't personally have experience with that, but quite a few people really enjoy them. Downside to that is you are really stuck with red dot magnifiers, or you could do like a cantilever mount with a LPVO. But in terms of prisms, you're really not going to want to use that rear part of the dust cover for anything that holds zero. Sure Shot even tells you that. So count on doing red dot magnifier for the most part with that system. But again, that is true free float. So huge benefit there is that you can rest on the handguard, you can crank down, and you don't have to worry about any barrel deflection from putting pressure on that handguard. Now, lastly, we have an Occam Defense. From my understanding, these guys require some gunsmithing, or if you have a lot of know-how on how to pull barrels, push out pins, all that good stuff, you could probably do it yourself at home, but that's very few of us. So the Occam Defense is really cool as well. It holds up well. I believe it's full free float. Again, that's just another option. Now all of these can, a lot of people say, oh my God, you end up spending a small fortune to get a modern AK. To a degree, it definitely does take some work. However, let's talk some numbers here. You can get the TDI chassis with a Wasser, $1,000. That's less than a BCM. You can get a WBP Polish rifle for $1,000, and depending on the chassis system you run on it, you can be between $1,300 and $1,800 for the full kitted out rifle. So let's compare that to some modern AR-15s and grade A. We're not talking like the junk AR-15s like a Ruger or a Delton or a Palmetto State Armory. So you can get into those. BCM is really, from my understanding, between $1,300 and $1,500 for a full rifle, and Daniel Defense, which is a grade A rifle as well, is typically floating right in that $2,000 range. So you're right in there with modern ARs. Downside is parts compatibility, all this other stuff, but you can really get a modernized AK set up for a similar price. So that's not really an issue there. Now, lastly, let's get into suppressing the rifles. So suppressing is a little trickier with AKs. Typically, imported rifles don't have concentric threads. I know some people say it is the shoulder off of the front sight post. I agree and disagree. I have tried doing jam nuts to make that thing work, and a lot of them are still not concentric. So you might have to have it rethreaded. This example here has a 14 5-inch barrel, and it has a pin and welded JMac muzzle device to run a Sandman K. So this is definitely a good route to go. You will have to pay a little bit in terms of gunsmithing. Now, non-imported AKs and Zostivas hold up incredibly well. My ZPAP 85, dead nut center in terms of the thread concentricity, and that's on the front side post threads. It's not even on the barrel. So you can get into those. Zostiva has a really good record, but count on having to check the threads, run a concentricity rod through before you ever shoot your suppressor on it. Now, second part is you are going to want to have some adjustable gas if you want longevity in your rifle. So you can definitely do a gas block with an adjustable gas setting like the Occam Defense or the Rifle Dynamics, or you can do a K&S gas piston. It's really dealer's choice. Either way, probably if you don't have the know-how, gonna have to take it to a gunsmith to install. But again, that affords you that adjustment to be able to tune your rifle and suppress it, because you definitely want to reduce your signature. So a suppressor is definitely a benefit there. You can also get into something like this. This is a flash hider from Ukraine. I forget who makes it. It's ME Defense. And this guy actually reduces the flash considerably. It doesn't reduce the noise, but really the flash is what most people are going for with a suppressor anyways. So past that, I really don't have anything else for you. I think modernizing an AK is not a bad thing. You can AR your AK, really bring it into a modern fighting rifle. And past that, don't forget to go outside, touch grass, and eat ass.